Well, to finish up our reading of the fifth chapter, I'd like to refer you to a couple of remarks that he makes towards the end, again. In the very last paragraph of the chapter, he says, "We can only know truths which are wholly composed of terms which we have experienced in acquaintance." And I think that gives you a sense of what Russell believes the relationship is between knowledge by acquaintance and knowledge by description. And clearly, there's a certain priority in Russell's mind to knowledge by acquaintance. That is, that we can know truths about things in the world, but ultimately that depends upon a prior acquaintance. That is, that knowledge by description depends upon a prior knowledge by acquaintance. He says it even more forcefully in the previous page, just a little bit before that. He says, "The fundamental principle in the analysis of propositions containing descriptions is this: every proposition which we can understand must be composed wholly of constituents with which we are acquainted." That is, that is why I called Russell an empiricist in the last talk. That is, that he believes that the foundation of all of our knowledge is what we encounter in our direct experience, and I would say in his terminology now, what we are acquainted with. Maybe we can understand that by looking at a particular proposition. A proposition which would be an example of knowledge by description. Let's say, or not a proposition actually, an element of a proposition, I guess. Let's just say the man who defeated John McCain in the presidential election of 2008. That would be an example of the so-and-so. We presume that applies to Barack Obama. That is, that so-and-so refers to Barack Obama. But let's look at that proposition. What is it composed of? Well, it's mostly composed of universals. The man is a universal. Defeated is universal. Election. These are all universal terms, and remember, Russell has stated, although he hasn't really given his reasons yet for this, but he stated that universals are things that we can be acquainted with directly rather than know by description. That is, that it belongs in the same category as sense data. That is, the category of things that we know by acquaintance, things that we can directly inspect or attend to in our experience rather than know indirectly through description. Another element of that is John McCain. That is that there's a particular thing in the world. Now here, the ambiguity between being acquainted with sense data as opposed to being acquainted with the particular things that the sense data relate to is important, because there is, of course, a sense in which I'm not acquainted with John McCain, because he is an object in the world. I have certain sense data which I associate with the object in the world, John McCain, and perhaps that's, strictly speaking, all I'm acquainted with when it comes to any person, including John McCain. But John McCain is a particular. So that statement is composed, or not statement. It's not a statement. It is, it is the possible subject of a statement, but it is a truth about something in the world, Barack Obama, that is composed of universals, concepts, abstract ideas, or general ideas on the one hand, but it also refers to certain sense experiences that I've had as well. That is, the only way that is meaningful to me is because I have had certain sense experiences. For instance, in reference, when he's talking about our knowledge of Bismarck, He says, if, however, we say the first Chancellor of the German Empire was an astute diplomatist, we can only be assured of the truth of our judgment in virtue of something with which we are acquainted, usually a testimony heard or read. So although the truth about Bismarck that we're stating is an example of something that we know indirectly, it is a kind of an extension of our acquaintance with our sense data, it ultimately depends upon, for its very meaning, depends for its very meaning upon previous acquaintance with sense data, or else we wouldn't understand the statement at all. That is, I must have read something about Bismarck, or seen a movie about Bismarck, or seen pictures of Bismarck, all of those experiences involving, of course, acquaintance with sense data, which, of course, then those sense data really need to be interpreted. But all of those sense data ultimately are the foundation for my being able to say something about Bismarck. So I just wanted to suggest the relationship, perhaps, between knowledge by description and knowledge by acquaintance, and to say that I think in Russell's mind, it all starts with knowledge by acquaintance. That is, our knowledge by description is built upon the foundation of our knowledge by acquaintance, and I guess he would say, and have to say, that we wouldn't have any knowledge by description at all unless we had knowledge by acquaintance first. So it was the primary or foundational level of all of our knowledge of the world, and obviously if we were in what we knew completely restricted to what we know by acquaintance, as he says, our knowledge would be very limited. But we could say that the miracle of knowledge is that we're able to build a very wide view of the world and know a lot of things about the world on the foundation of our fairly limited knowledge by acquaintance.